All right, so let me just check one more thing. I want to make sure I got the recording started, and I think we're good to go. We got a nice crew here on our call today. So guys, listen, if you want to, any comments or any questions as we go through these great stories today, just go ahead and type them into the chat box. Just find the chat box. That's the way you're going to be able to communicate with the ladies today in terms of anything you want to ask about their stories. And I'm super intrigued as, someone who born and raised in Berkeley, California, grew up at the Berkeley Tennis Club, way back in the 50s and 60s when we hosted the Pacific Coast Championships, which was right after the Pacific Southwest in LA. And then the week prior to that, or actually the 2 weeks prior to that, was the US Nationals at Forest Hills. But, I had the great opportunity to ball boy, for all these great players. And you guys, I'm sure, remember Maria Bueno and Darlene Hard. They stayed with us. They housed at our house for probably 7 or 8 years in a row as they showed up for that tournament every year. So that was a big deal for us. So for me, even if no one else was on, these kinds of stories are so fascinating for me. And we've got some great stories with you guys today. And we're titling this, How I Beat Chrissie, Martina, and Steffi. And if that doesn't get someone's attention, I don't know what will. But, Kate, let's start with you. And, I want to go through the whole match with Chrissie, the tournament in Florida. I think it was the Virginia Slims of Florida. I know you played her like 3 times after that year in the same year. And
we played like 4 or 5 times in 1 year.
It was like,
and
crazy.
I only beat her once.
Okay, well, and that's kind of the follow-up question I want to get into. But so you played her. I think it was like the 3rd round. Was that the 3rd round of that tournament?
Yeah, it was. It was the 3rd round. I think I played like Caroline Bassett in the first round.
Because you played Bassett in the first round, you beat her in straight sets, and she was. I mean, her career high was number 8 in the world, and she'd won Strasbourg, I think, earlier that year. That was a pretty tough draw.
And probably that match probably helped me against Chris because they played kind of similar, and what I found was that when I played my best tennis was when I had confidence, right? When I went in with a good mindset, and I would go into a match, and I can't even remember who I beat the 2nd round, but
I mean, what was happening like the weeks prior to that? I mean, because it seems to me like some of these
I had been off. I had been off for a little while with some small injury, and had also just changed rackets. So I wasn't thinking, that I was going to go in there, having a really great tournament, because I wasn't sure about the racket. And so I just kind of went in there going, you know what, I know I'm in good shape, and I know when I'm in good shape, I can stay out there forever, and I can, wear people down. And that was always kind of my mentality. And I had become a better player. I wasn't like lobbing all the time and just retrieving, which had sort of been what I did in juniors. And I had learned how to play, with people that actually hit the ball. And so I just kind of went in there going, remembering what my dad always told me, just play the ball, don't play the person, And so mindset for me was always super important. And I guess I had a good mindset during that tournament. After I beat Curling, I felt good, and I just tried not to think about who my next opponent was. After I won my 2nd round, I just went in there trying to play the ball. And it was a really lopsided match. Like, I lost the first set. It wasn't lopsided in that she was crushing me or anything. It was like 6-3, I think. And then I was up 4-0 in the 2nd set. And then she came back and tied it at 4-all. And, I kind of was like, just trying to look at my shoelaces and not look at her, and just try to get myself back on track. And I ended up winning that set. And I felt really good after that. And I think, I just really concentrated and really tried not to think of who was on the other side. and it worked.
So much easier said than done. I mean,
Yeah, well,
right. I mean,
it didn't happen with every match, believe me.
so had you ever played Carly Bassett before in that tournament?
I think I had lost to her maybe at the Lipton tournament one year.
Okay. But did you have any kind of, I mean, you said that you hadn't played for a while, a little bit of injury or played a little bit, changing rackets. Were there kind of lower expectations going into that tournament? Because I know I've heard from so many players that sometimes lower expectations, and all of a sudden you kind of relax.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't go in with, I tried never to go in with a low expectation, but I went in thinking like, I have nothing to prove. I've been off for a little while. I've got this new racket and let's just see what I can do with it. And it happened to be a good tournament. Now, the next tournament after I beat Chris, and then I think I lost to Sabatini in the next round because she was just way too strong for me. She just had way too much topspin, and I just,
Yeah.
I could never penetrate her game at all. But you would think I would be feeling really great and going into the next tournament, which I think was the Lipton tournament. And I lost the first round. I think it just kind of messed with my head. I thought, oh, now everyone's going to expect me to beat everyone because I beat Chris Everett. And it took me another couple tournaments to sort of turn that around and start playing well again. So, the mind is just, it can be a weapon or it can be, a bad thing.
So you split sets with Chrissie. She wins the first set. You're up 4-0 in the second. She comes back. You end up winning the second set. What's happening between the second and third sets other than just don't try to recognize or don't try to acknowledge who's over there? I gotta believe that there was something you'd figured out, maybe, that you decided, if I can keep doing this, I got a chance.
I just knew you can't really, Chris didn't have any weaknesses, right? So it's not like I said, oh, I just got to keep hitting to her forehand.
Right,
that doesn't work for her. But she, I don't think, was concentrating as well as she normally, did. She would get up 4-0 and then, lose. And that's not a normal Chris thing, right? So I knew that if I was just really tough and if she was having a little bit of a off day with her concentration or whatever, that, I always would tell myself that on a given day I could beat anyone if I was in good shape and, playing well and, believed in myself. So I just kept, saying, stay on her mentally because she was struggling a little bit mentally, which she normally does not do.
Yeah. All right. So what happens? I mean, you ended up winning the match. You got to feel, are the reporters, are people coming on you going, are these guys here in the locker room? Are they going, wow, how'd you do that?
Well, the thing is, it was, in her backyard, right? It was in Boca. That's where she lives.
That's right.
So the crowd was so disappointed that I had won.
I gotcha. Yeah.
They weren't mean about it or anything, but as I was walking to the locker room afterward, there was a girl, a young girl and back in these days there were payphones, and she was on a bank of payphones, and she was saying, Chris just lost to some nobody, so yeah, that sort of made me, think wow, that I'm a nobody to most people, right? Because I think I was ranked in the 30s, but I didn't care. I wasn't, I was in heaven. That was my best win.
So then how do you overcome all that euphoria, all the whatever, beating, one of the all-time greats, and then getting ready for tomorrow?
Yeah, I don't think I handled that as well. I knew that I had to play Gabriella, and that kind of messed with my head because I just knew that her topspin was really hard for me to handle. Whenever I played someone like that, I had a tough time. Like Andrea Tomasvari, I played before, in the semis of the clay courts, and I couldn't penetrate that. I wasn't strong enough, and I didn't know how to get around it. So I just did the best I could, but I think she crushed me 6-3 and 6-2 or something like that. Not crushed, but it was just kind of a routine match for her.
All right, so then you go on to play Chrissie 3 more times that year. I think they're all on clay, so that's a different deal because you played on hard court. But what was there any kind of thing that you got from the win that you thought that you could take into those 3 matches? And
I have to say that that was my best year. I played super well. I think my ranking went up, into the top 20. I did really well in a lot of tournaments after that. So that win gave me, a lot of confidence and did help me in future matches. It's just, I never beat her again because I'm sure Chris was like, I'm never losing her again.
Well, yeah, and I got to believe if you beat one of the all-time greats, you're going to go.
Yeah.
Now you have my attention, and
Yeah.
it just worked out. You had to play her a bunch of
And
times
she was,
after that.
of course, as usual, always, very gracious. And she was always, very good to me in the locker room and, so nice.
I'm curious. I got to assume that all three of you guys played Chris ever at some point. Was there one thing that Chrissie could do that you just realized I can't do? I can't overcome that thing. I mean, you're talking about Sabatini with a big topper, Kate. I mean, and Kathy, something that she did that she could do to everybody that was just better than everybody.
Two things. First of all, she was so mentally tough, and I played her a lot. And once I actually had 2 match points against her when I was 15 at the Italian Open. And a few years ago, Paula Smith told me that I actually won one of those match points. But the umpires did not call a ball properly. And then they were like bragging about it at the bar later that night, how they saved Everett from losing that match against Horvath at the Italian Open. So ask Paula Smith about that.
So you're saying that
I knew that. I was like, that didn't seem right.
So you're saying the umpire was at the bar with his buddies.
Yeah, the lines crew. Yeah, that's what they. Yeah, back then they were like hanging out. Right. So I had no idea. I was happy because I almost beat Chris Everett, and so I was feeling good, but I didn't know. So that was one thing she had over people. Whenever she would look at the linesmen, they would almost always give her the point. They're like, because so perfect. Yeah. So she was generous when, So she was gifted that way. But I would always leave the court thinking, how did I lose? She didn't do anything.
Right.
She didn't overpower me. She didn't do anything. Her serve is just a point starter. She has a great drop shot. And then I'd always just miss. I mean, I'm always overhitting or, and then you just leave the court going what happened?
Right. And did you ever play her in singles?
A lot, yeah. I mean, no free points. Every point you won, you had to really earn. I mean, for me, my only chance was, attacking the second serve. And to me, that was the real weak part of her game was her second serve. And it wasn't really that weak. But other than that, you had to earn every single point that you got.
And did you play her more of what I think was probably your comfort zone, more kind of chip and charge, more serve and volley, try to get up and kind of force player?
I wasn't going to hang back. I don't hang back with anybody really, or I didn't.
Okay. All right. Cool. Well, anything else, Kate, about that match that kind of sticks out in your memory against Chrissie? Any kind of weird call or any kind of weird thing or anything that she did?
No, there didn't seem any weird calls. It just, with me, it was always a question of was I gonna hold my temper or was I gonna be able to, get through a match without blowing it for some stupid reason because there was a bad call or something. And from that match, I was just really even keel and really, I just felt really in the moment there. And I wasn't always like that. So, you wish you could play every match like that. That was just one of those magical ones where you just keep it all together and everything fell into place. And
so on that day, you had your A+ stuff, physically, mentally, all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
How did you ever have this, God dang it, how do I duplicate this? How do I keep this going now? Because I've proven to myself I can do this.
Yeah, of course. And that's the $64,000 question. How do you how can you be like a Chris Evert, where like almost every match she played was like that, right? She was able to bring that onto the court almost every time she played. And I could bring it onto the court sometimes, and maybe even most of the time, but they're, not all the time. And so, that either one of the three most important things were like concentration, confidence, and fitness. And if one of those things was kind of off, it was a little harder.
Sure. Yeah. Well, listen, congratulations. That must still got to be a great memory for you. Well done.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, that's cool. All right, Ms. Horvath, Kathy Horvath. So the only loss of Martina's year, what was that? 1983. And hadn't you just gotten? Speaking of Chrissie, hadn't you just gotten the finals of the German?
Yeah.
Was that the week or 2 weeks before?
Well, it was like a few days. It was literally the finals was on the first day of the French Open because it was a Monday final in Berlin.
Okay.
So yeah, it was a few days.
So you play Chrissie in the finals. Who would you play? Anyone? I mean, there must have been some, because that's a good tournament. I mean, there must have been some decent wins in that tournament to get the finals.
Yeah, well, I was going into the French Open just feeling really good about things because the first week of the European 5-week stint was at the Italian Open, and I got to the semis of the Italian Open, which was better than I was supposed to. I don't remember who I beat there. I don't remember if I lost to Virginia Rizich or beat Virginia Rizich, but I think I beat a few good players there. And then the next week, I didn't do very well at the Swiss Open. But then the following week was the German Open. And again, I did much better than I was expected to do. I beat Bettina Bunge in that tournament.
Sure, yeah.
Andrea Leand, who was a good player. In the semis, I beat Andrea Jaeger, and it was like a super hot day.
Wow.
And it was when she was the second seed in the tournament. And it was like 7-5 in the third set. It was one of those matches where she fought for every point. Every point, I thought I was just going to throw up after every point because it just lasted so long. And I don't know if you guys remember in Berlin, they used these pressureless tennis balls that were like grapefruit that you could hit as hard as you wanted and it would just like never go out. So every point lasted so long and it was so hot. And somehow I won that match. And the next day, as hot as it was that in the semis, the next day it was one of those freezing cold days, in northern Germany, when the sun doesn't come out, all of a sudden it's like 50 degrees and it was wet. And I just remember feeling so stiff and sore, thinking like, oh my gosh, I can't even get out of bed because I'm so sore from that match with Andrea. And but still I had a good match with Chris. It was, I think, 7-6, 6-4.
Right.
And I was convinced, like, had the conditions been the same and I just wasn't so sore, I would have had a better chance. I was still really, really pleased. But like I said, the match was on a Monday. So back then the WTA had a rule that you have 1 day of travel so you can't start a tournament the next day. If you're in the finals or whatever. So my first round at the French Open was on Wednesday. So I don't remember who I played in the first round, but I didn't even have time to think. I was just like, life is good. I got to the finals of the German Open. I'm feeling good. Everything's good. I'm not in Paris at the French Open.
I mean, it sounds to me like you've got a good few weeks in the clay and you have a great result in Berlin. Do you then look, because now you got some serious confidence going and you think you can do some damage in the French, do you look at the draw to see where you are?
But yeah, I mean, I wasn't scheduled to meet Martina until the fourth round. I had some good players to get through, including Ann White there. You remember that?
Yeah.
Was it that tournament?
You killed me. But
yeah,
I thought it was 84.
Was it 84?
Right? I think it was 84.
It was
we
84.
played around of 16, I remember.
Was it? Okay, I don't remember whether it was 83 or 84.
No, it was 84.
I beat a couple of good players. So and then I played Wednesday. I played Thursday.
Oh.
I played Friday.
Wow.
So I thought, well, for sure, now I get a day off. So I go check in, to see the schedule. And I was on the schedule to play again on Saturday.
Wow.
So I was like, oh my gosh, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So I literally had no time to like think or anything. It was just like every day was a match. And so I just remember that morning warming up at the racing club. I don't remember who I warmed up with. I assumed it was Elise Bergen because she was a lefty. But maybe it was Eva Budarova or some lefty. I don't remember. But I remember feeling like I could hit a dime on the court, just warming up, and everything felt great. So I was just like, wow, I feel really good. And Martina hadn't lost that year. So I thought, well, I'm expected to lose. So I wasn't going in there thinking I'm going to win. I was just going in there thinking, nice day, feeling great. Everything feels good. And I was kind of like, when things were going my way, I played really well. Like who didn't, right? But it's not every day as a tennis player where you feel like every shot is going for you. So I had played Martina a lot before and a lot since or after that. And she, unlike Chris, is not that mentally tough. Like if you get a good start, she's looking at her coach. She's looking at the box. You can easily tell when she's rattled. Chris, her nostrils flare and she just steamrolls you and you're done. But Martina, you know when she's not feeling it and confident. And so I think I started pretty strongly, and she was looking at her box. And she had just started a coaching relationship with Renee Richards, right, who to this day tells me, like, wow,
you're the reason
that the shortest job I ever had. I got off the plane. I was at your match. I literally didn't even have time to go to my hotel. And then you beat Martina, and then she puts me on a plane, and I'm fired.
Right.
I was like, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was feeling it was on center court, which was Roland Garros cavernous, that court, and the crowd was getting into it, and it was starting to fill in. I won the first set 6-4. And I remember starting the second set, and my hand was shaking. Like I was serving, I was like, what's going on here? Because I realized that I could win this match because it was on clay. That's not her best surface. Right. I was keeping her deep, and then I was the one coming in because she was like chipping her backhand. She was so scared at that point to like hit over it. So then I would come in, and she would just like basically give me the swinging volley because she just like, it was hanging in the air. So I'm like, thank you, boom. So it was interesting, so I lost the second set 6-0.
I was going to say, what happened in the second set?
Nothing much. It just shows like the difference between like winning and losing is so like, I just was thinking about winning as opposed to playing every point.
Right.
And I just wasn't relaxed, and I don't know. So I just remember after I lost that second set, I was like, oh, well, you can win this match, So
you guys take a break? You guys take a little break between the second and third set?
No.
You just keep going.
So did we? No, I don't think so.
And,
so yeah, I just kept going, and I won the third set 6-3.
But wasn't it like 3-all in the third at some point? Well, according to the historian Joel Drucker, he says, yeah, it was 3-all in the third, and then he just kind of pulled away. So, well, that's really interesting. And then, so you have the great win.
Can I say one thing on breaks? Because I, if my memory serves me correctly, we didn't have bathroom breaks now they have so many breaks.
Yeah.
We were allowed to go to the bathroom, but it was like,
it had to be a real emergency.
You basically went to the bathroom a million times before a match because you were not going to leave the court.
Right.
You weren't like, oh, well, if I have to go to the bathroom, I'm going to leave the court. It was really unusual for anybody to go to the bathroom. When you went to the bathroom, you had to go to the bathroom. It wasn't like this.
It wasn't a sportsmanship thing.
So back in the old days, is what we're saying. Okay. All right. So you beat Martina. Place goes crazy. The press must be going nuts. And now you got to play Mima Jausevic the next round. And I know. But before we get into that, I'm just curious about, it's kind of like what Kate was talking about. God, you just beat, one of the all-time greats, now what do you do? And it's kind of like the same thing for you. Did you literally have to play the next day? Do you have to play me the next day, or did you guys get a break?
That's the problem. I wish I did because I didn't have time to think about it.
Right.
Well, the first thing I did was I called my father in Florida. And back then we didn't have cell phones. So I called collect, right?
Right.
So, of course he accepted the call and he was like, so,
hi, honey. How'd it go?
no, well, he didn't even think I played that day. He thought I had a day off. And I'm like, no, I did play. He's like, oh, you played Martina. So how did it go? Thinking like, oh, I hope you got a game or two or played well. And I'm like, I won. And he's like, oh, you won a few games? That's great. I'm like, no, I won. He's like, you won a set. That's greater. That's awesome. Good for you. She hasn't lost this year. I'm like, no. I won the match. And he's like, well, that can't be. You played Martina. She hasn't lost. And I'm like, so I remembered on the phone, like arguing with my father because he didn't accept the fact that I beat her. So I just remember that,
Yeah.
Wow, you're slow in the uptake, but yeah, so that was funny.
That's cool. That's cool. Well, what was your thought? I mean, hadn't Jasovich had she beaten Sabatini, or was she about to beat Sabatini, or anyway?
I don't know. Well, the problem was, I'll tell you what the problem was. The day off, instead of just relaxing and practicing a little bit, I said yes to every interview and every photo shoot. I was like on top of the Eiffel Tower. I don't know where my agent was telling me like not to do these things. I was interviewed for Paris match. I was interviewed as like, this is the one that's going to win the French Open now. So I was like, I guess I'm going to win the French Open now. And so that's not the best way to go into the next match. And I had beaten Mima before. And so I was confident that I'd win again. But the problem with Mima the problem for me was, she wasn't giving a lot of free points away. I mean, if you would beat yourself, you would lose. I mean, it was very easy to beat yourself against Mima. And so she didn't really have to do much that day, honestly, because I couldn't find the court. I was just like, wow, I'm supposed to win this tournament. Like, I have to hit a couple balls now. So I was horrible. I was so bad that day.
Wow.
So bad.
Wow.
So I lost like 1-1. It was awful. It was so awful. So I felt like I had my tail between my legs. I'm like, I'll just be like out of here now.
Well, look, she's still a quality player. I don't care. I mean,
she's great.
You could have had your best stuff, and maybe she was just playing out of her mind that day. And I mean, she got to the finals that year, right, against Chris. Right?
Yeah. Well, she in the next round, I think she beat Joe Dury, who on clay was, that was.
Yeah. So you've played Martina before, and guys, Kate and Ann. The one thing I asked about Chris, what was the one thing? Well, what's the one thing about Martina? And it seems to me like Chris sort of had this really super steady career where she comes out as a junior and she's got these groundies and they're really good and she doesn't ever miss. And like she got this mental thing and it just kind of kept that way, even though I think her fitness went to a different level as she got later in her career. Martina looks to me like she's kind of got some peaks and valleys in that career. Was there one thing that she did, you guys, that just was like, wow, I don't know what to do with this thing?
On faster surfaces, like on grass and on carpet, that lefty serve. And, she was just, when she got to the net, it was pretty much all over. So that was tough. The faster the
surface. Really good at putting pressure on you, and forcing you to hit really good passing shots. And the serve, it was hard to break her serve. It was definitely hard. On grass or hard, like Kathleen said.
But she was playing a lot of serve and volley, right?
On faster court.
You could get 3 points on her. I mean, she definitely would make mistakes that like just Chris would not hit.
Yeah.
Did you guys play doubles with her? Anyone partner up with her in doubles?
No, I didn't play.
I mean, it was Shriver all the time.
Pretty much.
Yeah. Okay. All right. All right, Kathy. So any other thing from that story that kind of came out maybe a few months down the road, or something that really kind of sticks out that you haven't mentioned about that match?
Not that I can recall. I mean, I just remember going into that match wearing my lucky outfit And the night before, I'd have the same meal, like I had ossobuco and profiteroles.
Wow, I still remember that.
Ossobuco and profiteroles leads to good things.
That's all right.
I have no idea what I ate before the Chris match. None. No idea.
All right, Ann White, how you doing?
Good.
Yeah. So look, you're actually going to talk about a doubles match.
Well, yeah, it was interesting when you asked, for matches and things, and there were several that came to mind, but the one with Chris, first of all, playing doubles with Chris was, a real honor as someone that I'd idolized and been a ball girl for her at the National 16s. And, just for me at that time, the fact that she said yes, that she would play with me, I was really excited. And then we played in the French Open and we played at Wimbledon. Didn't do that well, but
hold on, guys. We got a little.
There
we go. We got a little tech thing going on here, guys. Hold on for 1 second. Kate, you're fine. Kathy, you're fine. I think. It looks like Ann's a little
frozen.
A little frozen there. Let's just kind of wait it out a little bit, and we're going to wait till Ann comes back. That might be her. She might have gotten dropped.
Can you hear me?
I got you now.
Frozen?
I got you now. Yeah, you're a little frozen there. Again. I'm going to ask until we get Ann back, and until we get Ann back.
Right. Well, anyhow, so.
Oh, there we go. Well, we keep listening. Look, so Kathy and Kate, in terms of a doubles partner, was Chris the better choice than an Ann White in terms of a doubles partner? And I know it's kind of a loaded question.
I don't
know.
So.
Ann was a much better doubles partner.
Well, that's the obvious answer.
But, no, it's true. She could play doubles.
But I mean, that was, and I unfortunately with this tech thing, and Ann's talking about Ann's talking about what a great and obviously great player, great person that Chrissie is. But I also got to believe that when you go out and you play doubles with her, Ann White, that you've got to feel that you're the better doubles player. And yet I'm just curious kind of how that went, how that partnership went in terms of, is Chrissie saying, well, Ann, what do you want me to do? Or, is she saying, well, here's all I can do, or here's what I'm going to do? Okay.
Well, she played the ad court, which I actually like playing the ad court because I want to hit my forehand ball, which is not my better shot. But the good thing about Chris, I learned so much from playing with her in terms of concentration, in terms of strategy. I mean, I was, as Kathleen knows, we won a junior tournament in Maureen Conley-Brinker 100 years ago in doubles together. I was always making jokes and having fun and laughing, and it was all business with Chris. So, but I don't know if I'm repeating myself if you all heard me before, but she played Steffi in the finals of singles. And she lost, and that was the first time Steffi beat her. And I remember Lee Jackson had Mr. Groff, he was, in top of the bleachers and running around, and it was a crazy day. And I thought, Chris is not going to want to play. She is not going to want to play this match. She's going to default, because you all know how that goes. You get upset, and then you don't want to play the match. And I will say, Chris came back and wanted to play the doubles. So I was shocked, because I went from, oh my God, I'm not going to even get to play the final, to now we're going to play. And we were playing against Steffi and Catherine Tanvier, who was a French player who was a pretty good doubles player too. Right. And, we won 6-3, 6-3. So that was a real honor. And in preparation for our big Zoom call today, I did some Googling because I couldn't remember who we beat in the semis. And we beat Claudia Kota-Kilch and Sukova in the semis, 7-6 in the third, which was huge. And then in the quarters, we beat Bettina and Ava Pfaff. which, you know, another good team. So the fact that we beat both of them back to back and then beat Steffi, you know, on clay, which was not really my best surface, but, you know, it was a really good run and certainly an honor to play with Chris, and, you know, showed her real character after losing to Steffi. I think Steffi was 16 at the time. And, you know, we all have, you know, the up and comers that are coming up when you're older and you lose to somebody really young. It hurts. I mean, it hurts, hits you right in the gut. And you don't want to be the one that loses to the new kid on the block. So, but it was.
So how was Chrissie though? So Chrissie has the sting from losing the singles final, comes back out. Are you trying to pump her up? Are you trying to just kind of see what?
I'm keeping my mouth shut. I mean, she's focused and she's out there to play, and I'm not going to, you know, I'm just like, let's get down to business. Let's play. Good. And, you know, Steffi had that huge forehand return that would hit your shoelaces, bless you. And, you know, it was just time to focus. And the fact that she had just lost, I mean, you know, both Kate and Kathleen know that the big players, when they lose a match like that in a final and they have never lost to somebody, it stings big time.
Yeah, well, well, look, you also had some great singles victories too. I mean, Gula going on grass and Manlikova on hard courts.
Oh, and one more thing I wanted to say in my little preparation for our Zoom call.
Yeah.
You know, and both Kate and Kathleen will attest to this. You know, Chris and Martina played, I mean, Martina especially played a lot of doubles. Chris won 32 titles. I looked it up, which I had no idea. She won 32 doubles titles, a couple French Opens and a Wimbledon. And so I think back then the bigger players played doubles because they found a way to practice, and it was, you know, good for them to keep their competitive spirit going and all of that. So I think it really adds to the game now. I mean, we really didn't have doubles specialists per se back in the day as much as they do now. And I think it added a lot of value to the game and also to the players being able to get good practice matches in, you know, before their singles too.
Well, I would think that you guys would actually be a good partnership with her, sort of being steady back there in the baseline, probably never missing a ball and laying it down at their feet. And I'm sure, you know, setting you up, getting you some opportunities to move around up there. Besides Chris, who else did you like playing doubles with?
You know, I was fortunate enough to win, like, I don't know, I think I won 8 titles with 6 different partners. So I played with a lot of different people. I played with Leslie Allen. I played with Mary Lou Piatek, Mary Lou Daniels. I won a tournament with Robin White, which was fun. In fact, speaking of Mima, Kathleen, my first tournament that I ever won was with Mima Josevic. We won the Virginia Slims of Houston indoors, which was great. I played with Lori McNeil a little bit. So I played with a lot, you know, whoever would play with me pretty much.
So White and anybody. It's kind of like McEnroe and anybody, right?
Well, I don't know about that, but.
Okay.
You know.
So look, I want to ask, and what about mixed? I mean, I know that you played some mixed. Didn't you have a quarters or a semis at one of the Grand Slams?
You know what? I was a bad mixed player. I don't know what it was. I shouldn't have been, but I got to the quarters, I think, with Elliot Telcher at Wimbledon. But I just had a hard time with mixed, you know? I just did. Mixed is tough. I remember remember Todd Nelson?
Sure.
On the circuit, you guys?
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
He had a huge serve, and I played against him in mix, and I was playing the deuce court. I don't remember who I was playing with. And he served, and he hit me in the upper left thigh, and he knocked me down. I mean, I went down on the ground, and then I had a huge welt with an indentation of the ball on my thigh for like 2 weeks. So that kind of sums up my mixed career there.
Okay. All right.
Oh, my God.
Hey guys, if you're listening, would love to, now would be the time to go ahead and load up the chat area. If you have any questions, any comments, any remarks for the gals. So Mark Randolph is asking, how do you guys feel about on-court coaching?
Yeah, I don't really like it. I mean, I think it's not fair to some players. I mean, there are some players that can afford to have a fabulous coach and, you know, and be out there, and some players who can't. And I just don't think it's equal. So I don't really like it.
I agree.
Yeah.
I just think that's what I find special about tennis is kind of seeing somebody figuring things out or self-destructing. I think that's part of the game. It's
We've all done both of those.
Well, no, I think it really rewards the person who keeps their head together. And, you know, I'm not a big fan of some of the changes that they've made in tennis by truncating a lot of things either, which is a whole other discussion. But yeah, and I don't like hearing what the coaches have to say. Half of the time I'm like, oh, that's, I don't know. It's just,
I mean, I think there's a place for coaching, which is like World Team Tennis, you know, that makes it fun. It's, you know, it's a whole different arena, but I just don't think I don't think it adds to the game.
I think it tarnishes the sport, actually, because it takes away from the purity of the game, and it makes it more entertainment value. And quite honestly, to what Kathleen said, I mean, with all these shortenings of stats and all the rest, if they wanted really shortened matches, play no ad, and then everybody will get on their toes real quick. And then you don't have to, I don't like playing to 4 and just playing tiebreakers instead of third sets. I mean, you're taking away from the real core essence of the game and what it means to stay out there and compete and play. And, you know, I just think they need to really stop making all these major changes to the sport.
Mark Wagner is asking, who are the funnest players in the locker room and to hang out with?
Well, of course, Anne and Kathleen and me.
Well, besides you three, I should have conditioned the question.
I used to do impersonations. Do you remember that? When I used to do impersonations of all the players.
Kathleen did a really good impersonation of
during rain delays. I used to do impersonations. Yeah, that was like my thing. I did a great Virginia Wade. I did a great, oh gosh, I can't even remember all of them.
You talking about voices or just kind of like the way?
No, their mannerisms on the court. Their mannerisms on the court. Yeah. Okay.
Remember at Eastbourne one year when you guys did like a little skit and you were Martina and you had on like a bunch of like I don't know, silver. I can't even remember what it was, but you were pretending. She always wore a lot of jewelry, and it was just hilarious the way you portrayed it.
No, I think I was Peggy Gossett. I was like I was the press person. Like everybody had a role. I think Pam played Martina. I played the press person. They put it on a skit, and Kathy Jordan would always write up the script, and she put in so much work. I just remember her being at the typewriter, like in the press room, like writing the skit, and it was always a huge thing at the Eastbourne tournament every summer. So that was a lot of fun.
But the funnest person in the locker room, in my opinion, was Elise Bergen.
Yeah, well, I roomed with her a lot, and she she was always about the hair. You know, she always had her blow dryer, and she would always wear like these cowboy boots. So it was always
her strapped around her shoulder.
Yeah. She's still funny. Yeah.
And who'd you like hanging out with the most besides these two characters?
You know, I was really good friends with Mary Lou and Robin, and obviously Elise, and you know, a lot of kids from the juniors. I mean, we all grew up with the same group of people, and quite honestly, I had my Walkman permanently glued on my head. I was in outer space most of the time listening to music. And in terms of the locker room, I just remember the Wimbledon locker room, you know, how much it would rain. It doesn't seem to rain quite as much in England now as it did when we played, but I just remember waiting and sitting around that locker room, you know, waiting for the rain to break so you could go play your match. But, you know.
Yeah. All right. And then, so there were some tournaments where it was just the gals, some tournaments where it was just the guys. Obviously the slams had both, and there were probably a couple of other tournaments where the guys and the gals all got together. Was there one tournament outside of the slams that was just so much fun? Man, I'm thinking of, you know, Indian Wells now, That's got to be a great fun tournament for the players. But anything,
well, I mean, what it used to be called the Lipton tournament. I don't know what it's called now, but it was, you know, in Florida, and it was
Key
the
Biscayne.
guys and girls. Yeah,
Right.
and that was yeah.
It was always so windy there. Oh my God, I just remember the wind being so bad. I hated playing there because it was windy. I wanted to play indoors where there was no sun or no wind. I think for most people, you know, it was nice when you had friends or family with you, because, you know, the tour is such a lonely and isolating profession, that when you have friends with you, or you're in a city where you know a lot of people, then, you know, it makes you have people to go to dinner with, and you maybe go to different restaurants or do some interesting things. That's when it was most fun. It didn't really matter the city. It was just the people. I mean, I love the French Open. I always played pretty darn well there, even though clay was not my thing. But I loved Paris. I was going to museums and doing things off when I had a day off, unlike Kathleen. But you know, it's depended on the city and you know, what you wanted to experience and what people were there.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I loved the French Open and the US Open, because after I was out of singles, I would have a lot of fun in Paris. I remember going dancing at Castell's all the time. Do you remember Castell's?
I do.
It got to the point where the manager of the place used to come to my matches. So Gabby, I remember this guy, Gabriel Coas. He used to like show up at my matches. He looked like Vitas Gerulaitis. So then I knew I was kind of becoming a regular at Castell's, and then all the museums, the Pompidou and everything. And then I loved going dancing after I lost in singles. And same in New York. I remember going dancing, and I would play mixed doubles. I actually got to the semis of the mixed doubles at the French twice, once with Jimmy Arias and once with Andres Gomez, who won the men's single in his later years. And we used to practice together at Hotman's. And Jimmy and I used to practice together at Bollettieri's back in the day. And then my mixed doubles partner in the US Open was Leif Shiras, and we got to the semis there. And it was awesome playing with Leif because he was so much fun and he was so good looking. So we would go dancing and stuff too. And so I just was like in heaven. And that's probably why I got to the semis of the mix, because I'm like, I don't want this to end. This is like so much fun.
That's a great story. That's a great story. Did you guys have any coaches traveling with you then? I mean, you mentioned Bollettieri. Did you guys have any coaches who would travel with you?
My dad and my brother were my coaches. So when, you know, if I had someone with me, it was them, which is nice, you know, family member, and it's also your coach. And, you know, I had really, really very close relationship with my dad and my brother. I mean, they were both really good to me. They gave up a lot to, you know, to coach me and to practice with me and to, you know, make sure that I had what I needed for tournaments and stuff. So that was a special time.
That's great. That's cool.
I early in my career, I continued to work with Nick on and off, you know, throughout my whole career. And then on the road, initially, Virginia Way helped me a little bit. And then at the end of my career, John Lloyd, who had coached me in team tennis, said he wanted to work with me a little bit, and literally turned my game around. And after working with him for 6 weeks, I won my only tournament in singles, which was a big deal for me. And love John. I mean, John's one of the greatest guys.
Well, what did he do for you? What was the thing that he gave to you that kind of flipped the switch for you?
He made me train really hard.
Okay. All right. So
he got this trainer, this South African trainer, who would make me run the perimeter of UCLA. And I was like, oh, it's not that bad. I've driven around UCLA campus, and let me tell you, that hill up Sunset is really brutal. I drive it today. I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe I used to run up that hill. But actually, John got me in the gym with his trainer, and I started training and really, really working hard off the court. And it certainly made a difference.
Wow. That's cool. Kathy, what about you? Did Bollettieri have guys that would go with you and Jimmy and help you out?
I was only at Bollettieri's for about 1.5 years, and I started at the very beginning. He would send like some coaches with me,
right?
And then I was at Hopman's, and usually I traveled alone. And back when I started on the tour, not too many people brought coaches with them, and nobody had entourages really, maybe the very, very top players. So it was very easy to find other people to practice with. And then I remember at the end of the time I was on the tour, like in '89, it was getting to the point where I didn't know a lot of people in the draw anymore. There were a lot of it just became much more international. At the beginning, like in '79 and the early '80s, most of the draw was American players. So that you you knew a lot of them from junior. So it was much easier to like not be lonely. But at the end, it was harder because a lot of the foreign players, although it was wonderful to get to know them, their tennis federation sent coaches with them. And so they didn't really need to practice. They had their coaches. So it changed a lot. And I tried taking a few coaches with me, but it was pretty expensive. And a lot of them would go on my nerves, because there's a lot of downtime at tournaments too. So you're not practicing all the time. And then you're going to bed early and you realize your coach is going out having fun. And so I don't know, I found it really annoying.
So you're saying you could never hire Leif Shirus as your coach. Leif's going to go out and have a good time. Right.
Yeah, because he included me. See, these coaches were just like, I don't know, and then they show up and they're tired the next day. So.
All right, cool. All right, guys, listen, any more questions, let me know right now in the chat area. If not, or as you're loading up the chat area, I want to ask you guys what you're up to. Ann, I know that the movie with Nick has been a big deal for the last few years for you. How's that going?
Well, thanks to Kathleen's help, we, won numerous awards and have a 100% Rotten Tomatoes rating. And it was a great experience. I'm in the process of trying to develop a couple more things at the moment. And then I'm at the Beverly Hills Tennis Club, working with all these cute little kids who are just building their games. And it's a lot of fun,
That's good. Good for you. So Kathy, what was your role? I mean, Ann just mentioned that you helped her with that movie. What was the role?
Well, the movie was a lot of interviewing a lot of Nick's former students. So I was a former student that actually lived at his house. So it was a lot of fun, and I thank Ann for including me in that. It was great, and it led to a lot of fun things. I got to go to some film festivals and got to meet a lot of really great people, and for me it was a very cathartic experience, so it was very good.
That's cool. I asked you before we started the recording that about the financial arena. You're out of that. You've been out of that ever since you started. I guess those three kids got to a certain age. Anything you're doing tennis wise these days? I know that you're not hitting many tennis balls, but
well, I mean, every once in a while I'll coach a little bit, but for many years I was focusing on the development of one of my children as a tennis player. He's currently, I just finished his first year at University of Virginia, and he's on the men's tennis team. So when he was playing a lot, that took up a lot of time, because until he was maybe 12, I was his primary coach and traveling with him, and it was fun. Yeah. And
cool.
And then I also did a little work at USTA player development for a few years, but that was long. Oh, that's been long over. And yeah, I've been out of I used to work on Wall Street until 2003. So I've been toying with the idea of getting back into finance. That's how I spend a lot of my day, just following what's going on in the market. I guess it's a way to procrastinate from doing like housework and things like that.
All right. And Kate, what about you? What are you up to these days?
When I stepped away from tennis, I really stepped away. I don't play anymore. I love the game. I enjoy watching it, but I don't do it. It's my body kind of rejected it and said, like, that's too hard on your knees. And I went back to school. I finished my degree at Stanford because I had left early, to take advantage of, some good points that I had on the computer and just to play pro while I could. So after I finished my degree, then I met my husband, had some kids, two great kids. They're both competitive runners. They both go to MIT. You know, so I became a homemaker. I focused on, you know, raising my kids to be the best citizens of the world that I could, and, you know, petting my dogs and
that garden. That's not too bad either.
Yeah, you know, so you know, that's what I've contributed, hopefully, to kids that, you know, will make a difference someday.
Good for you. That's great. Okay, guys, that's it. Hope you've enjoyed this, everybody. I know I sure did. I'm going to post a recording tomorrow. I'll tag you guys on if you want to share it with your buddies. That would be cool. All right, guys. Anything else? Let me know. Everybody. That was good.
Thank you.
Kate, Kathy, Ann, thank you so much for your time today, guys. Really, really appreciate it. A lot of fun. And guys, as always, get out there. Help someone else have a spectacular day. And we'll do this again soon. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.